You wake up every day, caught in a spiral of expectations, responsibilities and emotions that overwhelm you. You're familiar with this whirlwind, anxiety about the future, regrets about the past, expectations of others that pile up on your shoulders like a crushing weight. But have you ever taken a moment to stop it all? Just for a moment to ask yourself, what really matters? Nearly 2 millennia ago, one man carried not only the weight of his own concerns, but that of an entire empire. This man, Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, had a wisdom that not even the centuries have been able to erase. What set him apart? His stoic approach to life, his ability to transcend the outer storm to achieve inner serenity. An emperor who, despite his position of absolute power, chose to live a life of humility and reflection. An emperor indeed, but more than a ruler, a philosopher, a Stoic. Imagine a man dressed in purple, surrounded by the gilding of Rome, and yet he was alone with his thoughts. Marcus Aurelius was not guided by glory or wealth, but by a deeper quest for wisdom and self-mastery. Before going any further, let me ask you this. How would you react if everything you have, everything that makes you who you are, were to disappear? Would you be able to remain serene in the face of chaos, in the face of loss? Marcus Aurelius lived through this. His writings and intimate reflections reveal a man who, in the midst of the tumult of history, maintained an unshakable inner peace. Today, his reflections resonate more than ever. Why do they? Because in this chaotic world, we all need to find our own anchor. Over the next few minutes, you'll explore the philosophy of this extraordinary man. And if you let yourself be guided, you may discover not only answers, but also solutions for better living, here and now. So let's dive into the spirit of Marcus Aurelius together. Chapter 1. Marcus Aurelius never sought to become emperor. He was a man of duty, driven to rule an empire he had not asked for. This is where we delve into the first teaching of Stoicism that he applied: the acceptance of one's destiny. The Stoic does not shirk the responsibilities imposed by life. Marcus Aurelius understood that the universe had given him this burden, and his duty was to assume it fully. Every decision he made as emperor he saw as a challenge to his own character, an opportunity to rise above selfish needs. And yet, for all his power, he knew that nothing really belonged to him. Not Rome, not his wealth, not even his life. Everything could be taken away from him at any moment. This is where Stoicism takes root, in the recognition that we control only our minds, not external events. He wrote in his Thoughts to Myself, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This inner power, this mental strength, is what Marcus Aurelius teaches us to develop. Have you ever wondered how often every day you react to situations you have no control over? How often do you let frustration, anger, or fear dictate your actions? Imagine a man alone in his room, in the recesses of Hadrian's palace. He's the emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world. Yet there, in the darkness of the night, far from the hustle and bustle of senators, soldiers and battles, he is first and foremost a human being. His thoughts overwhelm him, the approaching death, political treachery, the fragility of human existence. But instead of letting himself be carried away by fear or anguish, he picks up his notebook and writes these words: You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius knew that life was unpredictable. He knew that external events were beyond his control. But what he did control was the way he reacted. Stoicism, for him, was a mental discipline, a way of remembering that true strength lies not in what you possess or in the power you wield, but in mastering your own thoughts. Chapter 2. Marcus Aurelius was no man of marble. He felt pain, betrayal, and injustice, but he understood that to let his emotions dominate his actions would be to renounce his freedom. Stoicism is not a philosophy of insensitivity, but of mastery. It's a constant exercise in questioning one's own reactions. He writes, anger, pain, fear, all these reside only in the mind. What affects you is your judgment of events, not the events themselves. Let's take an example. Imagine a Roman general betrayed by one of his closest allies. The natural reaction would be to be overcome by anger, to seek revenge. But a Stoic like Marcus Aurelius would ask, will my anger change the situation? Will it make things better? He knew that every uncontrolled emotion is a waste of energy, a distraction from the essential. This emotional discipline does not mean running away from suffering, but accepting it as part of the human condition. When Marcus Aurelius lost several of his children, he didn't sink into sadness. Instead, he meditated on the impermanence of life. Everything that is born is doomed to die, he said. You too have undoubtedly faced loss and suffering. But the Stoic key is not to resist these events, but to accept them. Life is a continuous stream of changes, and our duty is to welcome them with calm and dignity. Chapter 3. We live in a society that fears death, shuns it, denies it. But for Marcus Aurelius, death was merely a natural passage, a stage like any other in the cosmic cycle of the universe. Death is a liberation, he wrote. It's a truth we all have to face. The question is not whether we will die, but how we choose to live until that moment. For him, death was not a subject to be avoided, but a guide. By meditating on the finitude of life, he could better appreciate each moment. One of the central concepts of Stoicism is memento mori. Remember that you are going to die. This awareness is not intended to frighten us, but to liberate us. If we accept that everything is ephemeral, then we understand that nothing deserves to distress or consume us. Marcus Aurelius often pondered this idea. As emperor, he could have been paralyzed by the fear of losing his power, his possessions, or his life. But instead, he used this thought to live every moment to the full. The perfection of character, he wrote, is to live each day as if it were the last, without frenzy, without apathy, without falseness. In his book Thoughts for Myself, he wrote, waste no more time discussing what a good man should be one. These words are a call to action. They remind you that death is always near, and that every moment wasted is a moment lost forever. But far from being a pessimistic vision, it's an invitation to live life to the full, to focus on what's essential, not to be distracted by the insignificant. Imagine yourself living each day with this clarity, no longer attached to trivialities, but focusing your energy on what really matters. If we remember that death awaits us all, we can finally let go of fear and anxiety. And that's how Marcus Aurelius lived. Chapter 4. Marcus Aurelius believed that our reason for being, as human beings, was to serve others. Every action, every thought should be directed towards the common good. He wrote, "What does not benefit the hive does not benefit the bee either." As emperor, he could have used his power for his own pleasure, but he always turned away from it. He knew that his position was an opportunity to be of service, not to enrich himself. Stoicism emphasizes virtue as the ultimate goal of life. And virtue, for Marcus Aurelius, meant doing what was right, even when no one was looking. The true test of character lies in those moments, when we have to choose between self-interest and the greater good. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where the easiest path wasn't the most honorable? Maybe you've had the opportunity to cheat, lie, or take a shortcut. What would you do, even at the pinnacle of power? Marcus Aurelius consistently chose the path of honor and virtue. He knew that integrity was what truly defined a man. For the emperor, as for all Stoics, virtue was the only true source of happiness. It was not a question of wealth, power, or pleasure, but of living in harmony with nature, cultivating qualities such as wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation. One of Marcus' central lessons is this: what's right for you depends on your virtue, not on external circumstances. You may lose your job, be betrayed by a friend, or even face a serious illness. But as long as you maintain your virtue, nothing can really harm you. In Thoughts for Myself, he puts it this way: don't try to make events happen the way you want them to, but wish them to happen the way they happen, and you'll be happy. You see, Marcus teaches us that inner peace comes from accepting the things we can't change and focusing on what we do control, our actions, our reactions, our character. His whole life was dedicated to this quest for virtue, and it's an example we should all follow. Chapter 5. Marcus Aurelius, despite his absolute power, was known for his benevolence and sense of justice. Yet he also knew he couldn't please everyone, nor could he control how others perceived him. Stoicism does not advocate cold indifference, but rather emotional detachment from things over which we have no control, such as the judgments of others. In Thoughts to Myself, he writes, "Other people's opinions are none of your business. Let others think what they want. You know who you are." This quote shows us the balance Marcus sought to achieve between compassion and indifference. He encouraged kindness, understanding, and justice towards others, while detaching himself from external criticism or flattery. You can't control what other people think of you, but you can control how you act towards them. Marcus Aurelius believed deeply in the importance of living in the present. In every situation, he asked himself, what's really important now? Not tomorrow, not yesterday, but now. He knew that the past is frozen and the future is uncertain. The only moment we have is the present. Always remember that the present moment is all you have. It's a simple but powerful idea. Too often we worry about the future or regret the past, losing our ability to act in the present moment. Marcus calls us to bring our minds back here, now, and focus on what we can accomplish immediately. Chapter 6. Why does Marcus Aurelius' Stoicism still resonate so deeply today, in a world so different from his own? Because the fundamental questions of life have not changed. We are still confronted with uncertainty, pain, loss, and fear. The world may be more technologically connected, but at heart, we still face the same existential challenges as the Romans. Stoicism is a timeless guide. It teaches us to live in a world beyond our control, to find peace in chaos. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that, despite all life's vicissitudes, we always have the power to choose how we react. You don't need to be an emperor to apply these principles. They are accessible to each and every one of us at every moment. Marcus Aurelius is a name that has echoed down the ages, not for his conquests, but for his wisdom. What he has left you through his writings is no mere philosophical guide. It's an invitation to free yourself from the shackles of worry, fear, and expectation. To live a life where you find peace not in your circumstances, but in your own mind. So, whenever you feel overwhelmed by life, when doubts and fears come to haunt you, remember the words of this emperor philosopher. You have power over your mind, not over external events. And with this wisdom, you'll find serenity in a world of constant storms.